Rumbling cattle, it makes me look to thee. Whenever phantoms flash the truth you see, most I find earth around the world, your words are fair and true. When questions and debates arise, we always look to you. Old time and safe, and liberty, rambling canopies all belong to thee. Rambling canopies all belong to thee.
Hello, all. Just let me get rid of this. There we go. Welcome to my late night stream that Anti-Trekker twisted my rubber arm to do. Ha, just bugging you, Anti-Trekker. So, well, because I'm somewhat tired, but what the hell. Throw the link in, see who jumps up. We'll have a little bit of a chat and a ramble and see where this goes. I want to thank everyone for coming in. Schromer, Thomas Potts, Clear Loss Construction, Anti-Trekker himself, Thomas Potts, Sci-Fi Nation, Sir sorry, I butchered your name. And who else did I miss? I got Sci-Fi. I think I got everybody so far. So, how are we doing at Anti-Trekker? This is all your fault, but completely.
Well, my goal is to make your life a living hell. You are Canadian.
Yeah, well. Oh.
So, by the way, one thing I would recommend for I know that that opening title, you don't have like a way to make it take up the whole screen and sound awesome because you're using just the basic version of Streamlabs, but you can still make it full screen in YouTube.
Yeah, I usually do, actually. Okay. I usually make it full screen, but it's 1:30 in the morning, so...
and now I understand why Sir Retznum is monster spelled backwards. Gotcha.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
I didn't catch that.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Very clever.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, it's 1:30 in the morning, so yeah.
Well, it would be earlier if you had just gotten on a little quicker.
I had to restart my machine so I didn't come across sounding like your super chats.
Wow, that was mean.
Oh, robot voice and shit.
So, are you looking forward to the part 1 of the finale of Picard?
Yes, actually, I am.
So, what do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be battle like the for 9. It's going to be the build up, so all the players are going to arrive, and then part 10 will be the actual battle. My only concern is that they don't jump the shark and do like a season 2 of the way you described it, because I didn't watch it, but the end of Discovery season 2, and have just this. All of a sudden his little ship can launch 1,000 shuttles or something.
Well, yeah, they did.
My biggest fear.
Yes, they retcon the Enterprise from having 4 shuttles to 2,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not making that number up. They actually do say there's a total of 4,000 shuttles from 2 starships.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen. Where all of a sudden, 1,000 shuttles come screaming out of that little ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some of them are drones, so they don't actually have 4,000 people manning the ships. Some of them are being piloted remotely, but they'd still have to have 4,000 crew to pilot 4,000 drones in combat, right?
Yeah, you'd think. Yeah.
So we have 4,000 shuttles and drones taking on, I don't know how many thousand drones from Control, because it was a Star Wars battle. And
yeah, the from what the little bit I've seen of it, because let's be honest, I checked out at season 1. And I fully admit that. That's why when people go on my stream and they start talking about season 2, I say very little about it, because all I did was hear the reviews, right? I didn't watch the show.
Yeah, it was painful. And the thing is, I'll say this about season 2. If you have a stroke and die the day before you're going to watch the last episode of season 2, you would get to heaven saying, wow, season 2 is really good. And because season 2, the amazing thing about season 2 was they actually looked like they were going to salvage the show. For one thing, they introduced a character that, now you know how insufferable Michael Burnham is.
Yes, that was one of the reasons I checked out.
Yes, so in season 2, they introduced a character that actually regularly put Michael Burnham in her place. Spock. They also put in a strong commanding officer with Pike. And this time, not a megalomaniac, genocidal, crazy nut job from a mirror universe, the Captain Pike.
Okay.
And so things were looking really up. I mean, the stuff, I gotta admit, I actually liked the interactions with Michael Burnham and Spock. I looked forward to scenes involving Michael Burnham for the first time ever in season 2, because her interactions with Spock felt like a genuine brother-sister relationship. And so I was really, really liking the series all the way up until the finale. Then the finale happened, and all I could say was, fuck!
Yes, I know. I saw the video.
Yeah.
Or the live stream, I should say.
Yeah.
So sorry for that punching bag.
Yeah. I mean, the 4,000 shuttles I could even forgive, but then they have Spock turn into a complete and utter pussy and shed a tear as Michael Burnham tells him to go find Captain Kirk.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not making that up.
Oh, brutal.
Oh, did I mention that Pike apologizes to Michael Burnham for being a man, and so does Sarek?
Yeah, I'm glad I missed out on season 2. I'm glad I checked out.
And that's the thing. It's like, what the hell? They were doing such a great job with season 2. And then in the last episode, they decided, you know what? We're just saving all the SJW crap for this episode.
Let's end it off on a high note.
Mm-hmm. Then here's the kicker, right? So that's all bad enough. But the bad guy in season 2 is an AI called Control. And so it's basically your basic Terminator plot.
Yeah.
In fact, it is very much your basic Terminator plot, because this AI is from the future trying to prevent itself from being defeated.
Wow.
Right? So it is the plot from Terminator.
Yeah, I've heard, and then the big joke was it was an AI trying to become an AI or some shit.
Yes, well, that was a problem in and of itself. But that's not even what I'm talking about here. So in the final episode, they get the idea that if they just send the AI into the distant future, then the AI could no longer be a threat, right? Sure, it'll be a threat to people in the future, but screw them, it'll be all right, because we'll be okay.
Right.
I wish I was making that up, but that's...
Alrighty then. Well, see, my biggest problem with season 3 of Discovery, and why, in a way, I'm almost tempted to watch it just to see how they answer this question, which they just probably won't answer. But I look at this like, okay, you've got a ship that is, what, 900 years in the future now? Is that what it is? 900 years? So basically, you're taking let's give Discovery the a little bit of credit, even though it doesn't deserve it. But let's say it was you could compare it to a first-rate ship of the line during the sailing era, and now you're going to bring that ship and put it up against ships like the Bismarck, or a modern battle
I'm
fleet.
sure they'll come up with some reason why technology has been stagnant.
Right. How in the hell?
But here's the thing. But I didn't even get to the dumb part of this. All right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you thought you heard dumb, but no, we're not done with
Grabbing
dumb.
T3s.
All right. So you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So they then completely destroy, and I do mean destroy and obliterate the AI, which you expect. It's the season finale, and the AI is the big bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They destroy the AI before they go to the future, and then they go to the future anyway.
What? If the problem's solved, why? Oh, never mind. Yeah, I'm glad.
And the reason is actually because Kurtzman thought that sending them to the future would fix canonical problems because now they can't affect canon, right? So
okay.
Then they wanted to make sure. So that wasn't even the end of the episode. So now Kurtzman promised that they would fix all canonical problems with the show in this last episode.
All right.
You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what they did was after Discovery pointlessly went to the future despite defeating the AI before they had to go to the future. Then Starfleet Command pulls in Spock and Pike and everybody else and says, okay, we don't want this AI business to cause problems, so it's all top secret. Nobody will ever talk about the spore drive, okay? Okay, good. The end.
Right, because that's worked in real life so well.
Mm-hmm. So basically, they said, shh, don't talk about it, and that fixes canon.
Okay, you could maybe get away with that for like an exercise, because like modern day, I mean, there's millions of things that the Marines and the Special Forces have done that nobody will ever know about until they decide to release it.
Right. So
you can excuse an exercise, maybe a couple. But a whole ship?
Oh no! Apparently, yeah, they're all top secret now.
Did this thing ever hit space dock ever? Space station.
Yeah. So there you go. Bet you're looking forward to watching season 2 now.
No, I'm glad I didn't. Actually, it was because of the reviews, and I'll be honest, I just and because I was so fed up after season 1. The finale of season 1 of Discovery, I got so angry at it. I don't think I could watch season 2, even if it was a good one. Like, even if they had improved it, I don't think I could watch it just because of how much. Well, one, I hate the design of the Discovery itself.
Yeah,
I can't get over that ship. It's so goddamn ugly.
The worst part about Discovery is that the best looking ship on the show is the Enterprise, and the second best looking ship is the Shinzo.
Yeah, I could agree with that. But I mean, like, the Discovery itself is such an ugly fucking ship.
Right. If the Shinzo had been the Discovery, then at least I wouldn't be bitching about what the ship looked like.
Yeah. But I mean,
I might not say. I'd probably say, well, it's not my favorite design, but it's not bad.
Yeah. But the pizza cutter from hell can go right away.
And then they spin around in circles, and it sends them through the magical mushroom network.
Yeah, which I guess became politically incorrect, so they stopped using.
Well, see, that's kind of a funny. That's one of those you can tell there were changes in the writing staff. Because they started this whole thing where the magical mushroom drive would send them through the magical mushroom network. But then they find out in season 2 that there are aliens that live in the magical mushroom network that are physically harmed by the presence of the magical mushroom drive. So they shouldn't use the magical mushroom drive. And so they say, you're right. we will never again use the magical mushroom drive, and then they just continue using the magical mushroom drive, and they kind of forget about the fact that these aliens live in magical mushroom land.
Oh, okay. Oh, my head hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. That hurts my head so much. Oh my god. But no, and Picard for me, and I know you and Bird haven't liked the last 2 episodes. I have, but that's because I look at them a little differently.
Right, you're Canadian, therefore stupid.
Haha.
Sorry, you're Canadian and therefore special.
Yeah. Or just too cold to care.
You know, Shermer, I would not even be surprised if what you're saying is true. Yeah, that's funny. Tom says that trigger sounds like he's drunk, but he's not. He's telling the truth. Yeah, everything I said is factual. That's the sad thing. That is the absolute pathetic thing about it, is that what I said is not an exaggeration. And yes, I know I sound like I'm drunk. It's mainly because of the muscle relaxers I'm taking, which are
Anti Trekker calls Canadians stupid, and what happens? Another one appears.
Yeah. Now you got not only a Canadian, but another Winnipegger.
How you doing, JP?
Hello.
Now, I know you know me well enough to know that when I say Canadians are stupid, that what I really mean is Rambling Canuck is stupid.
Oh, okay.
That's not to say that all Canadians are stupid.
Even though this stupid Canadian made you admit that you were wrong on your live stream.
Oh, no, but remember, according to Tentacle, I've never admitted that I'm wrong.
Yeah, that was funny. I'm sorry. That made me laugh.
And that's the thing. I don't, and this is the way I always approach. You guys know, when I argue, I go for the jugular, right? I don't hold back. I yell, I rant, I rave. But,
even though you're wrong.
But here's the thing, JP. When you prove I'm wrong, I back off, and I will admit it, right? And I'm okay with that, because you know what? The goal of an argument, to me, is not to win the argument. The goal of the argument is to find the truth. Yeah, and that truth is usually not entirely on one side of said argument.
But here's the problem. It's no longer, to me, I used to debate a lot when I was in high school and in younger years. And then I got out of it because I found out real quick that it used to, like, you used to debate and argue to get to the truth, like you said. Mm-hmm. However, nobody argues from that point anymore. They argue from the point of their personal truth.
Right.
And you can't beat that. That's just.
Well, here's the biggest problem with that, is that we actually now believe that the truth is relative. Right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem, is something is either factually correct or it is not. There is not a middle ground there. It's not, hey, I understand that, a coconut tree is a tree to you, but to this other person, it's a bush, and that's okay for them. No, it's a freaking tree.
The word tree is right in it.
Yeah. So, I get so sick of the modern relativistic thing where everything has got to be, oh, well, it's okay if you feel that way. No, it's not. If someone tells me the sky is red, they are wrong.
See, and I agree with you on that. However, like I was saying, that's just not how people argue anymore. It's right. Well, I believe that this is this, and therefore it's true. And it's like, well, or my other favorite. Well, Google said, screw what Google said.
Right.
Because that's what got me to contradict that on Google.
That's what got me so worked up on Twitter. Was because people started attacking me hardcore on Twitter over the whole supernova thing. And it's like, did you even pay attention to my video? I didn't express a single opinion. I had a freaking PhD in cosmology come on and explain how supernovas work. And you want to sit there because you looked it up on Wikipedia and say it's wrong.
See, and the other thing I'll point out is you disappointed me in your last Picard review.
Why is that?
On your live stream. That went quiet after 10 minutes on the.
Yeah, replay. I don't know what happened.
But you use the argument that I hate the most.
What's that?
that it's a ripoff of something else. I hate that argument so much.
What did I say was ripping off?
You were talking about Mass Effect with Bird.
Oh, I was, yeah. As far as the style of the show, it feels a lot like it.
Because what pisses me off about that, like, and maybe it's just me, but what pisses me off about that argument is, to me, if you make that argument, you're already lost, in my opinion.
Well, here's my problem here, and this is something that I've made clear, and I know you've heard me say this.
Yeah.
But that you know what? The fact that it looks like Mass Effect is not a reason to hate the show.
No.
It is, but it's something that is annoying when you're watching an episode you don't like.
Yeah, because like for me, like I put this on the live stream. I said this, and even though I haven't seen the show, I've heard enough about it, and I've seen visuals and stuff like that. I says, well, okay, I find it absolutely hilarious that people will sit there and go, well, okay, Picard is ripping off Mass Effect and this, that, and the other thing, and this one is ripping off this, that, and the other thing when they don't like the show. However, you flip that coin and you find a show that they like, and then that same effect where they're copying something from the past becomes, it's a love letter to.
Right.
And the one that
Galaxy Quest.
The one that I use is Orville.
Yeah, Orville is definitely.
Nobody will ever say that the Orville is ripping off TNG. How dare they? Right?
There are some people that say that.
There are some, but the majority vote, right, is going to be it's a love letter to TNG. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's why that argument is so damn weak, because in technicality, show me one show that's original, that doesn't feel like something else. Like you look at any horror film in the last 10 years, there hasn't been an original idea in 10, 15 years?
Some kind of being that has some kind of enhanced abilities better than most people and is killing up young, attractive people who take off their clothes.
Yeah. And most horror films today shouldn't be allowed to be called horror films. They're slashers. Get the damn genre right.
You say genre?
Yeah.
Is that what Canadians say, or are you just being stupid?
I'm just being tired.
Okay.
And my meds are kicking in. Yeah, get your genre right.
Well, I don't know. If he said a boot, I'd understand that.
Yeah.
Then I'd laugh even more.
No, get your damn genre right. It's a slasher film. It's not a horror film.
One of the reasons I hopped in when you guys were discussing the spore drives and such, I guess I was going to draw a similarity to, I believe it was either a Voyager episode where I believe it was an area of space where they couldn't go past warp 10. And
no, they broke warp 10 and turned them into salamanders.
What was it?
When they found that if they accelerated past warp 10, they would turn into salamanders because reason.
No, not that one. Not that one. I'm thinking of one where it's like it was destroying subspace, the warp engine.
Oh, that was TNG.
Okay, yeah, TNG.
They set a Federation speed limit of like warp 6 point something or whatever, because warp is now breaking subspace because we couldn't come up with a good excuse for pollution.
And that's what it sounded like. What was happening with like the spore drive?
That was so ridiculously on the nose with them trying to say that's why the federal government should put a speed limit out, because at the time, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, because I know a lot of your audience and my audience are too young to remember this because they weren't driving. But at the time, the federal government had imposed a 55 mile or 65 mile per hour maximum speed limit federally. Prior to whatever year it was, I think it was back in the 70s or early 80s, used to be that individual states could pick their speed limits. So some states had literally no speed limits on certain roads, and other states would say, oh, the maximum limit is 70 or 65 or whatever. And so the federal government imposed this 65 mile per hour limit in order to try to conserve fuel. Then the government was debating about reneging on that and to make it so that the states could once again pick their limits. So Star Trek decided to weigh in on the issue by making speed limits a necessity in space.
Yeah.
It was like the dumbest political allegory in Trek history.
And as a side note, he's not here, but there is one person I'd love to see you on a panel with, and that's Continuum Trek.
I don't think I've ever been on a panel with Continuum.
I really
I've
would.
been around from time to time, but
I was on a panel with him the other night on his channel, and he said something, and when he said it, I'm like, oh, now we need a debate between the Anti-Trekker and Continuum Trek. He likes the Voyager episode.
What, Threshold?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to talk to him about that.
He thinks it's not that bad of an episode.
Which one is that again?
Threshold.
That's the one where they
warp
found
10
out
and you turn into a lizard.
Yeah, you turn into a salamander if you go faster than warp 10, because why the hell
I just
not?
find that funny.
Yeah. He says that's not a bad episode of Voyager.
Really? The best part is that, and I wish I was, this is like beyond even Star Trek Discovery levels of stupid, is the simple fact that Paris and Janeway screwed, had kids, and then abandoned their children on a planet.
Yeah. And I do want to just quickly here address something, because I haven't been addressing a lot in the chat, and I do apologize for that, but I got 3 people up here, and, well, Anti-Trekker.
I know, I don't much.
So, Sir Monster, I'm going to read it backwards because I need more coffee if I'm going to have to read this properly, had pointed out that everybody acknowledges that Orville is a ripoff. The difference is yes, they do. However, when they say it, it's a love letter to, or it's how Star Trek should be. Right? So it's spun as a positive. When they do it with Picard, it's spun as a negative. And that's why I don't like that argument, because technically you could pick any show, and I don't care what it is. If you look at it hard enough, you're going to be able to find similarities, because everything has been done already.
Right.
In one way or some way or fashion, it's been done already.
I agree with
day and age. So,
and that's why I've said a lot of times, and this is where and that as far as Star Trek Picard, and actually the same is true of Star Trek Discovery, we will rant and rave about various things like inconsistencies with Trek, with inconsistencies with science, with the fact that it reminds us of this show or that show or this show. But honestly, that's not why we hate the show. We just can't deal with why we hate the show, because most people don't know why they hate the show. They just know it doesn't feel like Trek. And you've heard me say this a million times, so everybody knows what I'm about to say. It's because Trek was never based in nihilism. It's always been the exact opposite. And so the fact that Trek is now based in nihilism breaks Trek.
I think a lot of it too is the fact that we're not seeing the Starfleet that we always see, right? We're not seeing a Federation ship. We're not seeing the uniforms. We're not seeing so in a way that could not feel like Trek.
So you think if Picard and Riker and everybody else felt like their old selves and they were on a classic TNG adventure, they were just post-retirement, that you would be upset because you didn't see more starships?
No.
Okay. Then that's not it.
No. But to me, I don't know. I don't mind the tone of
it's well, it's no. Don't confuse nihilism with the tone. And that's the problem. So a lot of people do that. Is that it's not that it's dark, because Trek has gone, and that's the thing. Any individual thing that we talk about, you can point out to examples of it from before. Trek has gone dark before. Look at freaking Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, Deep Space Nine, you didn't see starships a whole lot. I mean, there were some episodes where you saw a shit ton of starships, but you didn't see them in every episode. And in fact, there are whole stretches of episodes where there were no starships. But what the difference between nihilism and a tone is darkness that's a tone. Nihilism is a philosophy. And the philosophy of nihilism is that life has no meaning. That is the core of nihilism.
To be exact, extreme skepticism maintaining that nothing in the world has real existence.
Exactly. There's no point to life. There's no
Hey,
meaning behind
you
it
just
all.
described me.
But here's the thing: is that when you write as a nihilist, then it's, think about this. There is a freaking reason that the death toll of a 10 episode season we've only seen 8 episodes of is higher than any season we have ever seen, including season 4 where a Borg cube blew up. All right. There is a reason that the death toll is higher in 8 episodes of Picard than any 20 episode season of any other show. And I mean on-screen deaths. I don't mean, deaths that are, let's look at the casualty numbers from the war, but we don't actually see them die. And the reason is because life has no meaning. There's a reason that people are actually trying to defend 7 of 9 committing murder, because life has no meaning. There's a reason why Elrond just gets a mild scolding for decapitating a Romulan senator, because life has no meaning. And that's the attitude and philosophy of the writers. It has nothing. Picard, I've said it before, I think Picard is actually, he feels like Picard, but the writers don't feel like Trek writers.
No, because and I say this all the time, they're going after the demographic they'll never get.
Right.
They're going after the 18 to 25.
Well, and they're going, but the thing is, they're trying to go after it in the wrong way. Star Trek has appealed across generations because it's always been family friendly. Mom and dad would watch it because they like sci-fi. The kids would watch it because they like the adventure. And before you know it, the kids are out there being the scientists of the next generation. And I love pointing out the fact that the guy that invented the damn cell phone was inspired by Kirk's communicator.
Yeah, but I'll also point out that, play devil's advocate a little bit. The writers are probably going, we can't have this because we have to have the flashy battle scenes. We have to have that kind of stuff to get in the 18 to 25.
But they're wrong about that.
But they're wrong. I'll give you that. But that's the thinking behind it.
Right. I mean, I heard Kurtzman say that the reason that Star Trek Discovery doesn't look like the original series is because nobody would watch a show that looked like the original series. And it's like, dude, you do know that fans went gaga over In a Mirror Darkly and Trials and Tribulations.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they went gaga is because they perfectly replicated the original series era, but filmed it with modern techniques.
Yeah, but they don't see that, right?
Yeah.
That's not their, like I've always said,
don't put big explosions on screen and redesign everything, that the kids won't watch it.
Yeah, because I look at this in a kind of I look at all my favorite things, I guess you could say, my fandoms, and it's the one common theme between all of them, which is like WWE, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything I can point to. The writing rooms in them have gone to hell.
Yeah.
Because they're all going after, I associate it with WWE. WWE's long-standing mandate, basically, has been diehards will always be there, so F them. And what we want is the guy who's flipping through the screen, flipping through the channels. That's the guy we want.
Right.
Right? That's the one they're going after. Not the guy who buys the $1,000 belts. Not the guy, who pays for hotels and airplane ride to get to WrestleMania. We want the guy who's flipping through the channel. Right? And slowly but surely, that mentality has leaked into Star Trek, Star Wars, because a lot of the stuff that's happening here we experienced years ago, and the WWE basically put out the mandate, F the fans, and then they if you complained, well, this isn't my wrestling, right, or this isn't wrestling the way I grew up with it, you're just a mark, shut up. Right, that was the way that, or you're just a stupid little nerd who's never gotten laid living in your mother's basement. Sound familiar?
Well, William
We've heard
Shatner
that since the 90s, right? So, so I just find it interesting that you can draw the parallels. And the other thing, too, when you used to do like Attitude Era, early Attitude Era, you'd have 4 people in the writing room. You've had Vince McMahon, probably Vince Russo, who was a complete idiot, and then you'd have 2 old timers from wrestling talking about it, right?
Mhm.
Now you have 10 to 15 people fresh out of college or fresh off of Days of Our Lives writing the show
Right.
that have no flipping clue what they're talking about.
Well, here's the thing: the original series of Trek, which I still maintain is the best, and I don't care what anybody else says, but the original series had no writers' room. TNG, for the most part, had no writers' room. You know, the first sci-fi show that I truly loved that was focused heavily on the writers' room was Battlestar Galactica 2004, and who ran that writers' room? Ronald D. Moore. Why is that so awesome? Because Ronald D. Moore cared about the franchise. And so Kurtzman clearly doesn't give a crap about the franchise because you can tell by the way he interviews. He cares about the demographics. He cares about the ratings and all that. And I understand the ratings are important. That's the number one thing that will determine whether your show continues or not. But if you don't care about the franchise first, then you're not going to get the ratings because your show is going to suck.
They're making changes to the writers in season 2 and 3 are making changes for the writers for Picard.
Mm-hmm.
They've already gone after, I don't know if you heard of Mark Bernardin, and he's signed on for 2 and 3.
The
2
problem
and 3 is good.
Here's the other problem, though, is that some of the changes that were made to the series were done so at Patrick Stewart's demand.
Yes.
And that in and of itself is a problem. Now, I don't know if because people have been theorizing that Picard is going to die at the end of season 1, and that they're going to name the ship the Picard.
No, if anything, it'll be ended of season 2.
Well, I'm just saying that I know that's been a popular fan theory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know, and I go no.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do at the end of season 1. But if they did do something like that, then I could see them taking the show in a better direction. If they don't do something like that, I highly doubt that season 2 would even happen because this is something that people have to come to terms with. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that Patrick Stewart is a crappy actor. He's a great actor. He is the best actor to have ever graced Star Trek. But he is a hardcore to the end SJ effing W.
Yes.
And so people need to stop thinking that he is Jean-Luc Picard. No, he's just another freaking Hollywood SJW sellout. And so he wants that, he wants to virtue signal. He wants to put all this crap in there. Yeah. And he doesn't understand what that Trek was originally an egalitarianism society because egalitarianism is offensive to SJWs. And that's something like, I don't know if you saw Steve Shive's Why Do Conservatives Like Star Trek? I'm actually working on doing
keep showing up on YouTube, but I'm not going to hit press play. I've sworn off that guy.
Well, I'll tell you, I unsubscribed at his request in that video.
Well, see,
and I will never watch another Steve Shives video unless Steve Shives himself comes and asks me to. But I'm going to do a full-on review of his video because it is so offensive. And he clearly does not know what the hell a conservative is. He clearly doesn't understand what Star Trek is. He's one of these people that just drank the SJW Kool-Aid and doesn't understand that there's more to Star Trek than far left politics. By the way, I'm about to make Baby Yoda go really, really dark here. Let's see, put that right there.
Okay, so
I think he doesn't know anything about politics because it's like someone can be partially a little bit left, a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right. You can't be a total nut job all the time.
Right. Well, and I'm sorry, but the original series, like he went on this whole tirade in this video about the fact that Ted Cruz was a Trek fan. And Ted Cruz said, not surprisingly, that Kirk is his favorite captain. And he also said that Kirk was probably a Republican. Now, when Ted Cruz said that Kirk was probably a Republican, that's a funny little line. I get it.
Yeah.
I don't think he was being overly serious about it. Just like, which I got to tell you, the president who had the best sense of humor of any president of the United States is Ronald Reagan. The man was shot and being drugged into the hospital on a gurney, and reporters are surrounding him. And he actually said, remember, the guy had been shot and he almost died. And he goes, well, I just hope my surgeon is not a Democrat.
Yeah.
He actually said that.
Yeah.
And that's that's a sense of humor.
Yeah, but
Ted
one
Cruz,
thing I wanted to kind of point out, because as you were describing what Kurtzman, right? Yeah, Kurtzman. Kurtzman to me sounds a lot like, if you bring it back to the wrestling world, which is where I have the more knowledge of, because that's where I spent a lot of the past years in. Sounds a lot like a Vince Russo. Vince Russo has actually gone on record stating that wrestling fans do not turn into a wrestling show to watch wrestling. They tune in for the soap opera and the storylines.
Now, I am not a wrestling fan, but I would dare say that if I were to hazard a guess why someone would watch wrestling, it would be because they want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, but no, not according to him. No. That's not why they watch wrestling. The faster the matches are, the better, because that's not why people watch. It's just, oh, you're an idiot. Here's your sign. And the only reason that he did well in WWE was because Vince McMahon was there filtering out his stupid ideas. Right? So Vince is where the buck stops. So he comes up with a crazy idea. Vince McMahon goes, no, I like it, but we're going to change it, and we'll do it this way, but we'll still keep elements of what you said. Now go into the corner and sit and look funny. And then he went to WCW, and his career went right to the bottom of the barrel because he no longer had Vince McMahon sitting there on his on his shoulder going, no, that's stupid. Next. Yeah. Right? So then he goes to WCW, and it did boom. Like he ended up having one of the wrestlers bum on a pole for a match. Oh yeah, there's some pretty stupid shit that he's responsible for. Making David Arquette the WCW champion.
Really?
Yeah.
Stupid stuff like that.
Oh yeah, fun stuff. But then again, Vince McMahon did green light the Katie Vick storyline. Oh god damn! And now Anti Tricker has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about.
No clue, because I don't know jack about wrestling.
Basically, I'll try to make this so I don't get struck by YouTube. I will sugarcoat this storyline for you. Have you ever heard of Kane?
Batman's arch enemy?
No. Basically, the Undertaker's stepbrother. Anyway, he basically was this big bad guy with, would come out with the pyro and, tombstone people to death and stuff like that. Anyway, so he's going up against Triple H, who's now the, married into the McMahons and running the show kind of thing. Anyway, so he's going up against Triple H. Well, one of the scenes, right, is one of the backstage skits is that you see a casket because he's going up against Kane, so makes sense so far. Then Triple H says, I found one of your girlfriends. In the casket is a female mannequin, who Triple H then ensues in the next 3 minutes of live on camera TV show to molest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is what you watch for entertainment.
Well, that's the Attitude Era. This is not modern era. That wouldn't fly now. But yeah, that's Attitude Era. 101.
Wow, you wrestling fans are a weird group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. You're
Well, it's not a liked storyline, Anti-Trekker. It's one of those dark days where it's like the Star Trek Discovery of wrestling. Let me put it that way. It's the one we never speak of.
I guess so.
There's a few others in there, but you know.
Wow. Okay.
And Clear Loss Construction says, I like the Ultimate Warrior. Which version? WCW Ultimate Warrior or Ultimate Warrior back in the day?
This is a just super chat alert for $30.
Because there is a difference.
Yes, and there are two different people.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Same guy. The one you're thinking about is Renegade. Renegade was the imposter.
Oh, there was an imposter.
Yes. WCW before they signed the actual Ultimate Warrior to come into WCW, they had a guy that looked somewhat like the guy who played the Ultimate Warrior, and they came up with a secondary gimmick called the Renegade. And he did the same moves. He came into the ring, did the whole shaking of the ropes, the whole 9 yards, and acted exactly like the Ultimate Warrior. And then there were rumors going around that the real Ultimate Warrior had died, and this was a secondary guy. Oh, the whole bunch of bullshit. Anyway, so then later on, they actually got that guy's career was basically put to an end because the actual Ultimate Warrior came back. So then you had the imitation and the real thing on the same show for a very brief moment.
Okay. This is beginning to sound like a certain episode of Futurama.
Yeah. Yeah. It can get some of the stuff that's passed for entertainment is, oh god.
And that is why I stopped watching wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
somebody's got the coronavirus.
No, just a chest cold. I got checked.
Oh, it's all right. We know you got the coronavirus.
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
Probably.
I'm so sick of that. I want it to go away. Like, I get it. It is bad.
Go away when you're dead.
But it's just everything closing down and the way it's gone and the overhype. I just know.
Don't worry. When you're dead, then it'll be done.
Yeah, sure. Why
Sure.
not?
Sure.
And I wouldn't talk Mr. Cough Cough on his stream and says.
Well,
they're
I told you
allergies.
I've been having allergies,
Mhm.
which has nothing
Sure.
to do.
Oh, now you're running your own credits on my
Yeah,
show.
I had the wrong button. Checking to see how the print's doing. This is the next print that I plan to paint. So this one is not going to take nearly as long as Baby Yoda. This one will only take a day and a half.
Only a day and a half.
Yeah.
So how many printers is the end game here?
Well, the end game I don't know. As far as the end game is when I'm dead. But
Okay,
what I would like-
projected.
honestly,
what would you
yeah.
like?
So as far as what I would like to do, I would like to have probably about 3 or 4 of good quality PLA printers, which is basically the type you're seeing right now, the kind that use filament, and then maybe more than that of high-end resin printers. The resin printers print much finer detail, but the materials that they use is more expensive.
Yeah.
And so the resin printers would be the ultimate goal, is to get to them. But the problem
Okay,
is
so
that resin printing is an expensive game, which means I will get one resin printer as soon as I can, but I won't get any more resin printers for probably a while.
So would the game plan then be get one or two more of these type,
Right.
and then do some 3D printing, have like a Teespring, and then use the money from Teespring to buy your ultimate
Well,
put back into it, or what's the...
my actual plan of attack is next printer will be a PLA printer. Probably this printer's big brother, which is called the CR10, which is still a low-cost printer, but one that's got a good reputation, even though the problem with these entry-level computers, entry-level printers, like the Ender, which is this one, the Ender 3, is a dirt cheap printer. It's like you can find them for about $199.
Okay.
Which is, that's pretty cheap for a 3D printer. That is really cheap because they run in the tens of thousands easily. However, you'll notice if you look at it carefully, the bundle of wires that are going into the hot end there.
Yeah.
That's because I've replaced every component that the hot end, I've replaced that. That's the actual black box. I've added more fans to it. The bundle of wires is because I've replaced the wiring twice. The blue tube that goes from the hot end to that red piece called the extruder, I've replaced about 5 times, and in fact replaced it earlier today for the most recent change. So you basically, with these lower end printers, you better be ready to learn how to build a printer, because I've replaced pretty much every component you can replace.
Wow.
And you can see
they're high maintenance.
Yeah, well, to say the least. Now you can get lower maintenance printers, but they're very expensive.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, right?
Now with resin printers tend to have less mechanical problems, but the material is much more expensive, and there's more things to deal with because a resin printer uses a toxic plastic resin, which means I can't have it sitting up here in the office while it's printing, which means I won't know if the print fails until I go down and check on it, unless I happen to have a 24/7 webcam on it or something. And then once the print is actually done from a resin printer, you have to bathe the print in isopropyl alcohol just to remove the excess resin. Then you have to expose the entire print to massive amounts of UV light to cure the resin.
Wow.
And then you can print it, or you can paint it. But so there's more work involved. It's more hazardous work, but the quality is ridiculously good.
Have you ever checked out some of Adam Savage's videos?
Adam Savage, no. I've heard the name, but I think he does. I think I've seen. Actually, no, I lied. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 of his videos, and he has talked about 3D printing a couple of times.
Yeah, he's a big old maker type dude.
Yeah,
he does have a giant resin printer.
Yeah, and there's a couple of really good ones that have just come out that are literal game changers in the market. Because a resin printer, another big disadvantage to resin printing is most entry-level resin printers will only print ridiculously small things. So like maximum size would be about the size of a can of Coke. Not a 2-liter bottle, a can.
Okay.
All right. That would be the absolute biggest thing it could print. Now, which is, way too small. Like this printer, the maximum I could do would be like my Dr. Doom mask.
Okay.
But the larger, these new resin printers that just hit the market can actually print things a little bit larger than this printer will print. And they cost reasonably a low amount, about $1,700 to $2,000, which I know people are like, oh crap, but that is dirt cheap for a resin printer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's the printer I want to get. You can get cheaper resin printers. In fact, some of the smaller resin printers have dropped their prices because of these. So you can now get a resin printer for like $200, $250. And depending on financial ability and stuff, how are the patrons going and stuff like that, and ad revenue, I may get a $200 one just to learn it a little bit. But what I want is that $1,700 printer.
Okay.
And then I can start printing high quality, decent sized models.
You know what you do? We wait to see the finale, and if they actually do destroy Rios' ship, what you do is you get in good buddy with CBS, maybe give it a good review or something, right? and then you go, and then you just get the 3D printers that they used for on that ship, because they're going to have to create new sets anyway, and most of that stuff's just going to go to the garbage anyway. So you just even trade, right?
Well, the problem is the 3D printers they actually do use as set pieces on the show they're higher quality printers than the one I have, but the build volume is actually smaller than the one I have.
Ah, okay.
So they're actually kind of they're the printers they're printers that run in like the $5,000 price range, but which you're going to spend about that if you're getting an all-in-one piece enclosed printer like that. And there actually is a couple of advantages of having an enclosed printer. Like this printer prints PLA like a champ. A PLA is a type of plastic, obviously the type of plastic that I use. But if you get other types of plastic like PETA and stuff like that, requires much higher temperatures.
Okay.
And so an enclosure makes it easier to maintain a higher temperature.
But Anti-Trekker, the reason I suggest this is, there is no better price than free.
Yes, but those printers are also, not great. I mean, they would print about the same quality as this one, but half the size, and so that's a step down.
Yes, but you see, in your marketing, you could say have something printed from an actual prop from Star Trek Picard. See
that's true. I could try that. I'm sure that would go over well.
Charge more. You see how that works?
And what I'll do is get time-lapse videos of the prints going, and then add the visual effects from Picard.
Yeah.
And so, look, you can see your print being made.
Yeah. See?
That's why it's only $5,000 for a baby Yoda.
You can, raise that price up.
Am I missing something?
Well, I don't know. There's a printer going. Are you missing that?
No, you guys were talking about printers from what? Picard?
Yeah.
On Star Trek Picard, there are the replicators that they show multiple times throughout the series are actually just 3D printers that they set on a shelf. And the stupid thing is, they don't even remove the labels from the printer. I mean, anybody that knows anything about 3D printing will instantly recognize them.
Okay, I'll have to have a look at that.
It's really stupid, actually. Like, let me see if I can find one of them. I think they use the MakerBot. Let's see. Let's see. And in fact, probably the reason is because like MakerBot makes a printer. It's $651, and it is actually called the Replicator.
Yeah.
And here is a link to it if anybody wants to see it. And if you've seen Picard, it should look familiar to you.
Oh, yeah. I guess I gotta. No, you just. Oh, okay. You put it in the.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. And Thomas says they can't remove the labels because they need to return to the Best Buy. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And Sir Monster says CR10 is on sale for $364. Yeah, the CR10 is, like I said, it's the big brother to the Ender 3. The CR10 is an older design. It's actually a very old design, but it's one of the most popular among 3D printer hobbyists because it's, number one, like the Ender 3, it's very easy to replace the various components that you will have to replace. But for the design itself works really well. And so when you buy a CR10, you can pretty much bet that you're going to be replacing a couple of parts pretty quickly. But if at the same time, it's for the money, it's hard to beat.
Yeah.
And then once you get it to where you want it to be, yeah, you're going to spend a couple $100 more, but you're still spending less than you're going to spend on any other printer for the build volume. And the CR10 builds pretty good sized things.
Okay. So back to Picard a little bit.
Yes.
So my, I guess, fan fiction of how I want season 2 that will never happen. And I say that pretty clearly because I this is no way do I think this is going to happen. But where I'd like them to go with it is they do their 9 and their 10. The ship they're on now gets obliterated, either in that crash landing that we get a preview of, although I think Bird is right, it's a red herring. But let's say it's not, and the ship is done, it's toast. Next season, you get Picard, Raffi, and Rios reinstated into the Federation on a Federation ship, and the whole thing turns into them rooting out the moles within Starfleet. And then, of course, you get the overlaying factor of Raffi and her son reuniting, just because you're going to have to if you went that route. I mean, I don't think they're going to do that, but that's the way I'd like to see the show move from season 1 to season 2.
I don't think we're going to see that.
No, I don't think so either. It's just my happy thought place.
Your happy thought place? No, I don't think. Because here's the thing: I don't think they want to set the show on a Federation starship. Which I know that may sound silly to you, but that's just a fact. They're not interested in actually setting this on a starship because they don't want it to feel like Star Trek. They think they're being edgy by not having it feel like Star Trek.
Yeah. In all likelihood, the other theory I've heard is that they're going to be on the run from Starfleet, which is what I actually think they're going to.
I could see that more than I could see the other scenario, but
so can I, honestly. So can I. It's just my little fan fiction, what I want and never will have.
So yeah, I could see, the worst case scenario, which I think makes it the most likely because it's the worst case scenario, is that the way that season, Picard is fighting to save the androids, right?
Yeah.
And the Romulans want to wipe out the androids, and the Federation fleet shows up, and the Federation fleet, Picard thinks is going to help him save the androids, but then turns out to be sided with the Romulan fleet because for some reason Federation bad. Then at the last minute, when all seems hopeless, the Borg cube shows up and rescues the androids, beams them onto the Borg cube, and beams Picard onto the Borg cube, and they think that they've made their escape. And then you see Admiral Pottymouth sitting on the flagship of the Federation fleet, and she's like, "Damn it, they got away." And then the door opens, and in walks Georgiou, and she says, "Not for long."
No, I don't think so. They couldn't do that this season.
Sure, they could. They end the season with a cliffhanger that Georgiou is going to be hunting down Picard in season 2, and that becomes your Section 31 show.
Yeah, but then that forces them to bring back Georgiou in season 3 of Discovery.
Yeah, and your point?
Yeah, true.
No.
Like I said it's the worst
case scenario, yeah.
Which is why I think that's what's going to happen.
No, it replaces Georgiou with Janeway.
No, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, and besides, you want Section 31. You remember, and Janeway is nobody's Section 31. Janeway may be inconsistently written to where she sometimes appears to be a megalomaniac who is perfectly fine with genocide. But Georgiou is actually Section 31. And
Yeah.
Peter Foss doesn't know who Georgiou is. Georgiou is played by Michelle Yeoh from Star Trek Discovery, and she is the Empress of the Mirror Universe Terran Empire, who came over, and Starfleet Command knows damn well that she is the Empress from the Mirror Universe Terran Empire, and so they give her a job as a agent in Section 31. I am not making that up.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh, you probably didn't know about that part, did you?
Well, I've heard it in the reviews. Like I watched all of your reviews because they were bloody entertaining.
Yeah.
To see how bad you were going to punish your liver that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't watch season 2. I just refuse.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should watch it.
Yeah, maybe it'll go in behind the Orville because I haven't watched that either.
You haven't watched Orville, really?
No.
Oh, that's right. You were saying something about you thought it was going to suck or something.
Well, here's my thing. I didn't like McFarlane's. I don't like standard. I don't like that type of comedy. It's not my my bag. So when it was more me just going, I'm not going to like this. And I just didn't put it on a priority list.
Right. Now, here's the thing. And I will tell you when now I watched Orville because I'm a sci-fi nutcase, and I will watch the premiere episode of anything as long as it's sci-fi related. And if it's good, I'll watch the entire series. Or if it's Star Trek, I'm going to watch it no matter what, because it's Star Trek and I'm a lifelong Trekkie, no matter how bad it gets. But when Orville premiere came on, I was thinking exactly what you're thinking. Come on, it's like a cheap imitation of Star Trek with fart jokes. It's going to be the Family Guy in space. This is going to suck.
Don't say
And that was absolutely my belief when I went in to watch episode 1 of Orville. Then I realized, holy crap, I've heard people say that Seth MacFarlane is a Trek fan. I'm like, okay, but then why is he going to make fun of it by making fart jokes and have Peter Griffin in space? And so then I watched the first episode, and I was like, wait a minute, it's not stupid. It's not like silly yuck jokes all the time. Yeah, there's a couple of fart references and stuff, but it's not like over the top. And in fact, about they had this whole thing. They basically, and the way I describe it to friends is usually it's Star Trek: The Next Generation if they removed all the sticks from everybody's butts.
Yeah.
And basically people are just talking a little more real. So like the Navigator in the first episode, they're confronted by a superior ship because the Orville is not a class 1 heavy cruiser like the Enterprise. The Orville is an explorer class ship. It's actually not meant for combat.
Okay.
And they're face down with a heavy cruiser from the enemy, the Krill. And so what can they do? They're outgunned. There's nothing they can do. And so then the Navigator says, don't worry, Captain, I can hug the donkey. And they're like, what the hell is hugging the donkey? And then he proceeds to do the maneuver that he calls hugging the donkey, which basically means flying the ship really fast and going really close to the enemy ship so that their trackers can't lock on.
Okay.
And so, and it was a fun little thing, right? And it makes sense. And they have a bar where they actually act like they're in a bar. They just feel more human than they do on TNG.
Yeah. So for like my biggest thing was when I first heard about it and I saw little bits and pieces of it, my immediate reaction, because where I came into Trek was TNG.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was like, oh, great, they're going to space ball my TNG.
Right.
And I'm like,
definitely not space.
Oh, no, I'm not watching this. I'm not going to watch it because it's going to make me mad because they're just going to insult the show I grew up on.
I got to say, I don't know why Star Wars fans can tolerate Spaceballs.
I don't either.
Because Spaceballs to me is an absolute insult to the Star Wars universe.
100%.
It is everything Mel Brooks can do to say, hey, guys, look how stupid Star Wars is.
Yeah. It's 100% mockery.
That's why
100%.
that's why I love Galaxy Quest, because Galaxy Quest is like, hey guys, yeah, we're all fans. We know this is wrong. When they point out how the fans are, stuff like that, or the attitude of the actors, because it's all grounded in truth.
Yeah.
Where Spaceballs is just, hey, let's turn lightsabers into dicks. That'll be funny.
Yeah, and that's like honestly when Orville came out, and I've since talked to Orville Nation, and okay, well I'll give it a shot, but originally I wasn't gonna watch it because I'm like, okay, they're just gonna Spaceballs my TNG, and I just no thanks, I'll pass, thank you, because like for me it was actually really the old lineup, and JP knows because he called it out when I said it the last time. The old lineup that I grew up on was Saturday night was Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, and then it was my bedtime. Sunday night was TNG original series bedtime. So my Saturday night and Sunday nights were booked.
Right, I get it. By the way, I gotta say, as far as what Ozzy said, Lucas endorsed Spaceballs and the studio did the effects. Here's the thing about that. George Lucas wrote the whole thing about Anakin comparing Padme to sand, so I don't give a crap what Lucas said.
Yeah.
That's
another thing that that gets on my nerves is the hypocrisy of when I was growing up and the episodes 1, 2, and 3 were coming out. We had the fandom screaming and yelling for Lucas's head on a pike.
If there was an internet, the fandom menace would have turned on George Lucas hardcore.
Right? They were calling for his head on a pike. And now it's, come back and save us, Lucas. Come back and save it. It's like, you idiots.
Help me, George Lucas. You're our only hope.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, are you kidding me? There's a reason he sold it.
George Lucas, here's the thing. George Lucas, he showed exactly how much he cares about the franchise by selling it. It basically... the rule of acquisition number, whatever the hell it is, every man has his price. George Lucas proved it's true. Because George Lucas completely sold the rights to Disney with no contingencies, nothing written in paper that said that he was going to have the right to do this or that, or they had to do his storylines or any of that crap. He sold the franchise. He is literally a sellout. Now, granted, he's a sellout for the biggest price tag in history, but he's still a sellout. So I'm sorry. You know what? George Lucas created a great universe with Star Wars. I'm not going to take that away from him. But at the same time, I'm certainly not going to worship the altar of George Lucas because the good Star Wars, namely Empire and Jedi, he did the story treatment for, and that is it. He did not write the screenplay. He did not direct the films.
Yeah, and the same thing could be said about Roddenberry.
Right. And then when you get to the prequels, I'm sorry, but the prequels, both in story and in writing and in direction, were crap.
Yeah, I only liked episode 3 out of the...
I still have a soft spot for episode 1, but that's because, like I've said before, I actually got to go to the world premiere.
Yeah.
And so I will always have a soft spot for episode 1, and it does have the most badass lightsaber fight in Star Wars.
Yeah, but for me, 3 was... But I'm a Vader mark, to use a wrestling term. So I like Vader. Vader's my favorite.
And I would say that if I was doing trying to be an objective review of the prequels, I would probably give episode 3 the highest marks. But just for me personally, episode 1 will always be my favorite.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that being said, so when George Lucas sold the franchise, I was like, okay, cool, because his work has been subpar, and the only people that made good Star Wars weren't George Lucas. So give it to someone else. And I didn't think that I'm sorry, I'm still going to say it. I don't think The Force Awakens was a horrifically bad movie. Yeah,
no, I liked it.
Rey should have lost that fight at the end of the movie.
That's where I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Right. And yes, I think that the way they took out Han was kind of cheap. But, other than that, overall, I enjoyed it. And then we get to the bastardization of Star Wars as The Last Jedi, and it completely destroys the franchise. And then JJ tries to fix it with Rise of Skywalker. He does the best he can, but you can only come back so far from a movie like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, hell, he had Luke Skywalker directly apologize for his behavior, and yet people still don't see anything good about it.
Well, like Rise of Skywalker, like Star Wars is a big thing for me and my eldest son.
Mhm.
Right? We've watched all the movies at nauseum together, and it's the one thing we nerd out about together, other than WWE. But even that he's kind of gone like me and given up on it.
Right.
But Star Wars is that thing we bond over. And when we both got done watching Rise of Skywalker, he looked at me and says, I like that one. That's going to be in my top 5. Right? So for my son, Rise of Skywalker is in his top 5.
That puts it in the top half, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't, here's the thing. I can definitely think of Star Wars movies that are worse, I mean, if I'm looking at it, trying to be as objective as I can about it, I would say that, okay, obviously The Last Jedi was worse, right? Even the hardcore haters on Rise of Skywalker would agree about that one. I would say that Solo is worse, right? So I would say that the episode 1 and episode 2 are worse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's 4 movies worse than it already.
Yeah.
Right? As far as comparing it to Force Awakens and episode 3, I'd probably have to rewatch all 3 movies to honestly say where they land. But yeah, I don't think that Rise of Skywalker was one of the horrifically bad Star Wars movies, but it also was nobody's Empire or Jedi.
No. Not by a long shot.
Which one was it when they got the plans for the Death Star?
That was Rogue One. And I didn't. And I would say Rogue One is better than Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
But not by a ton. I didn't like Jyn Erso, and I didn't like Rebels killing Rebels.
I loved the Vader scene in that movie.
That's the main thing that saves it from the Rebels killing Rebels thing.
Although now, but in one sense, it kind of, for me, it was kind of funny. I really liked that scene, but on the same token, then you go into A New Hope, which is chronically right afterwards, right?
And all of a sudden, Vader can't. Maybe here's the thing.
Yeah, and then Vader doesn't do the end.
Like the same age as Obi-Wan, right, or a little younger. And so we'll say that if Obi-Wan is like 70, I don't know how old he's really supposed to be, but say Obi-Wan's 70 and Vader's like 60, right? So Vader's not a young guy. And so here's what happened. He does all that badass stuff in Rogue One, and then he's so hurt and tired, and he's like rubbing himself down with Vicks vapor rub all over his and so he's just too sore to fight Obi-Wan, and he's lucky that Obi-Wan is even weaker than he is.
Well, what I meant was when they board Leia's ship, right? He sends in the troopers first,
right?
Instead of
because he was rubbing Vic's.
He's like, oh, I'm getting too old for this shit.
He's like, come on, I just did all this crap. Do you really want me to do it again?
Yeah. But like for me, what'll never happen, but what I'd love to see is right after episode 3, Vader hunting down the remainder of the Jedi. That to me would be an interesting series. Not necessarily a movie, but an interesting series.
I think that here's the problem. I think that the Anakin storyline was drug out too long, and the Vader story was never really touched on. I think what they should have done is basically what we saw in episode 1, episode 2 could have been condensed into a single film. And first of all, making freaking Padme a pedophile is just messy.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you combine episode 1 and episode 2. You have Hayden Christensen play Anakin from the beginning, right? And by the way, that would also make it so that when they said he's too old to train, it would make freaking sense. Because I'm sorry, I gotta agree with Red Letter Media. If Anakin in episode 1 is too young, what is freaking the right age? A freaking fetus?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, the kid's 9. You know, so anyway, but so I would say have Hayden Christensen play Anakin from the beginning, and you can kind of condense the storyline so that as they're trying to figure out what's going on in Naboo, it launches into the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Then episode 2 becomes what we see in episode 3, the fall of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
However, not the lava fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I have the high ground.
Yeah, the big finale is Yoda and Obi-Wan trying to take down the Emperor and failing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that leaves us with our dark ending.
Why no lava fight?
Because that needs to be the culmination of the trilogy. You ended on a dark note. Vader and the Emperor are in total control, and plus you never have the good guy win in episode 2 of a trilogy. And by the way, you end episode 2 with the Emperor in total control, Vader, his new uber powerful apprentice, who helps him defeat. Like, you can have a scene where Obi-Wan and Yoda are getting the upper hand on the Emperor, and then Vader comes in, and it's like, yeah, let me show you how it's done, bitches, and takes them down, right? So Vader and Emperor are solidified as evil. Yoda and Obi-Wan are solidified as good, but Yoda and Obi-Wan ain't got a prayer in hell because they're completely outclassed, right? Then you go into episode 3 and you have Vader. It's basically becomes a race where Vader and Obi-Wan and Yoda and the Emperor are all trying to find any surviving Jedi. Vader and the Emperor are trying to wipe them out. Obi-Wan and Yoda are trying to save them. And you end up with them confronting each other. And we have Yoda and the Emperor basically fighting to a standstill while Obi-Wan defeats Vader, sends him into the lava. But then the Emperor takes down Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan and Yoda barely escape. You do not need to have them then go, I'm going to go hide now. You know, that you don't need that. You don't need to hit it on the nose like that. We get what'll happen in between these trilogies. Yeah. You know, so that's how I would have done it if Lucas had consulted me. But yeah. And yes, Sir Monster, if you talk about the anti-cheese edit of the prequel trilogies, outstanding. And if you guys haven't seen it, there's a guy, and if you can find him on BitTorrents and stuff, I never recommend downloading it unless you own a legit copy, because then it's not illegal. But if you do have a legit copy of Star Wars, download the anti-cheese edit. The anti-cheese edit of Phantom Menace is really, really good. What they did was they basically took out the crap that drug it down. So like Jar Jar Binks stuff is reduced to a minimum, and they just basically trim out all the garbage. And
Jar Jar needed to go.
Yeah,
it's actually called the anti-cheese edit.
It's called the anti-cheese edit. That is the name of it. And they do all 3 films, but the biggest drastic difference is episode 1, because obviously it had the most cheese to get rid of. And so with that one, yeah, Jar Jar is cut down to, in episode 1 with the anti-cheese edit, Jar Jar's part is about as significant as it was in the theatrical release of episode 2. You know, so and that makes it a whole lot better.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't remember. I haven't watched it in a while, but I don't even remember if they even show much of the Gungan battle.
Oh, that was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Downright stupid.
And so, but they focus on the story essentials, and it works. It genuinely works. But yeah, but the thing is that, yeah, George Lucas, he's not a very good writer, and he's a horrible director.
Yeah.
And so, but what he is good at is he was a visionary, and he's good at crafting a story. And so yes, he had the vision of the Star Wars universe, which is basically just a mixture of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, and the Seven Samurai, and it works really, really well. But that's where he got the idea.
Yeah.
And I think it was genius. But at the same time, while the original Star Wars from 77 is great, the Empire and Jedi are, two of the best sci-fi movies ever made.
Yeah.
And which I wouldn't say about any other Star Wars film.
No.
But I would put, Empire and Jedi up there with Star Trek 2 and Blade Runner and other great sci-fi movies. Anyway, sorry for rambling. You're the rambler.
Yeah, my back is starting to really kick in, so I think I'm gonna
that's cool, man. I gotta get to bed anyway.
wrap it up anyway.
I'm hoping that my supplies come early in the day tomorrow, so I can start practicing on my painting, so I can start painting Baby Yoda. Because number one sci-fi, I know it wants to get Baby Yoda.
You know who's gonna be mad at you?
Who's that?
Mecca.
Mecca. Oh, that's right. She does love some Baby Yoda.
She's gonna be mad at you.
Mecca every now and then shows up on my streams and says hi. But number one is kind of part of our little corner.
Yeah, I know. I just had to say it because it made me laugh.
I might make Mecca one eventually, but like I said, it takes 3.5 days to print that damn thing.
That's a long damn time.
That is a long damn time.
It is, and that's one of the reasons that having multiple printers is genuinely a good idea if you want to make a lot of these kinds of things. It came out beautifully, but 3.5 days to print, then probably several hours to paint once I get used to the equipment. So yeah, that's not a small amount of time.
No.
And now, if I had 3 printers and one of them was just constantly pumping out Baby Yodas, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Because then I'd have the other 2 printers for other projects. And that's what I ultimately would do is like when I get a second printer, then whatever it is that people want, whether it's Baby Yoda or whatever, some other print that I come up with that people love, then I'll have one printer just constantly cranking that out. And whether it pops one out every 3 days or 2 days or whatever it takes, then the second printer I'll be experimenting with and stuff. And then when the anti-trekker model is done, well, then one of the printers will be printing out anti-trekkers all the time.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to end it here because I got to go lay down before I fall down. And
shut up, you wimp.
Uh-huh.
Hey, by the way, I don't know. I
kick you in the ass, but my leg hurts.
I would recommend the drugs that I'm taking, but I don't think they would help you with what you're going through. So
no.
My problem is mostly soft tissue. So
mine is inflammation.
Right. And so, yeah, I can't even take any anti-inflammatories. So I'm screwed with that part. And so this doesn't help with my hands. But it helps a lot with my back, so that's trade-off.
Yeah, get rid of one pain and deal with the other.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and until next time, take her easy, folks.
Bye.